Abiotic factors. Wind strength. This is how strong the wind blows. This affects the ability of the plant to release pollen and how the root structure of the plant is adapted to stay rooted. Sun exposure. The amount of sunlight that the plant receives during the day. This affects the size of the leaves and how they are adapted to catching sunlight. Temperature. This is how hot or cold it is, and this relates to how much water is lost. Each organism has their own temperature range. Average rainfall. This is the plant's ability to survive with or without water. Plants have many adaptations with regards to how much water they receive. Gradient. The gradient is how steep the slope is. This causes runoff and will also affect how the plant roots itself.
Sexual reproduction is more effective in changing environmental conditions because they form adaptations to the new environment. They form seeds which can go dormant and germinate in more favorable conditions.
Bryophytes live in wet, moist conditions near water. They need water to reproduce as the sperm needs to swim to the ovule. Fertilization occurs when the sperm reaches the ovule and the two nuclei fuse together. Bryophytes produce spores and are dispersed via other animals who eat them or the wind. Pteridophytes live in wet, moist conditions near water. They need water to reproduce as the sperm needs to swim to the ovule. Fertilization occurs when the sperm reaches the ovule and the two nuclei fuse together. Pteridophytes produce spores and are dispersed via other animals who eat them or the wind. Gymnosperms live in dry and in direct sunlight, often on steep slopes. They do not need water for reproduction as they are pollinated by the wind. Pollination occurs when the male cone produces pollen and this is blown towards the female cone. Fertilization then occurs when the two nuclei fuse together. Seeds are formed and are dispersed via the wind or animals that eat them. Angiosperms live in direct sunlight and do not need water to reproduce as they are pollinated by animals such as bees and sunbirds. Pollen contains the male gametes, which must be transferred from the anther to the stigma. When the pollen grain lands in the stigma, a plant tube grows down the style towards the ovary. Seeds are formed and they are dispersed via the wind or other animals eating them. The male sex organ is the stamen, and this is made up of a filament and the anther, which produces pollen. The female sex organ is the carpel. The carpel is made up of the stigma, which receives the pollen, the style, which transports the pollen to the ovary, and the ovules are the female gametes, which are inside the ovary.